Okay, so I've got the base generally set up, and I've got the moon set up, and the order of the sciences are a little bit different now. So they go wood, steam, red, green, then military, then blue science, and you don't actually get access to purple or utility science until after space is done. So I have space started, which requires actually using the 2 moons. So there's kind of the starter moon, Ligmas, and I have my kind of bit of starter base that still exists. And then you can get the gold from that, and I just do a simple mine out of gold plates. Nothing too complicated here. I drop off all the rocket supplies. Do not build them in situ. And then there's the actual kind of traditional moon, where I have a full kind of old school base set up with lots of with actual main bus and wood being made that requires actually like breaking apart water and producing oxygen and then kind of like recombining and doing this whole process. And that goes and outputs into direct space science. Eventually I'll be able to make space science in orbit, but I have to actually research that first. And then those just get launched to space. I haven't automated my space platforms yet because I'm waiting to get the space signal transmission, which will allow me to send codes between planets. And that's when I'm going to kind of set that up so it can have like an ordering queue and it can work a lot more similar to how the rest of my base is set up. And so if I go back to Novice, I have some science kind of already brought in. If any extra ends up in the lognet, it automatically gets brought over here with filters and then gets put into these kind of buffer chests, and then based on how much is there, it'll actually get put onto the carousel and then put onto this train where it is filtered. Might have to actually filter these arms later, that's TBD. We'll determine that as needed. And then this long train goes, it's all nuclear field, and it will actually go and get stopped right here, directly loaded into the actual labs, and then those will get filled up. And then this can be produced where I have multiple loaders, multiple trains. I can even have multiple drop-off bays. And that's kind of so once probably after I get flyovers, I might actually kind of expand this out. And this is the original kind of like starter position. Technically, this isn't the same rocket, but I saved it anyway because we land on Ligmas and then we get a wooden rocket to get down here. But I went and tried to make that neat. The base is generally broken up into just these different kind of like isolated sections. So I have like, here's where my nuclear fuel is, and so that's just below all the rocket fuel. Rocket fuel automatically switches between recipes based on what's available. And I kind of have all my fuel cracking and all that, and then all of the liquids get moved via barrel. So everything is barreled. The only liquid that doesn't get barreled is steam because you're not allowed to barrel it. Here I kind of have my explosives being made. I have a couple of these where I just drop off barrels and pick up crude. These are kind of cool because they filled about 250,000 so far of barrels of crude oil. I have my basic processing and then reprocessing to get more enriched. You can see that plenty here that's set up. I have a couple parking lots that hold all the extra trains that are just kind of waiting. And so you see this one here. I have another one that's kind of full here, another one here, and a last one down here. They're all seeming to be full, so I'm kind of due to build another one. I've got lots of trains jumping around. Here's kind of my military science set up. Same thing, the trains come in, they load into the bay. All the bays are exactly the same. There's no difference to any of them. That way it can be super generic, super easy to get loaded in. Same thing, I have my wood drop off here with my basic wood setup, and then my blue science that gets set up here. It's saying it doesn't have a path because I don't currently have the setup for the where actually am I missing? No, everything's fine. So I don't currently have the actual drop-off location yet because I haven't filled this out. I'm waiting to do that last. And then, well, I'll hold off on that one. So yeah, I kind of have all these different little sectors that are set up. Like my blue science, same thing, we drop off. If I need more for a given location, I'll go ahead and have like copper as well as iron. And then everything kind of gets dropped off here. Same thing, barrel. And if it's full, I'll fill red circuits as well. If not, and then if red circuits are full, I'll fill green circuits. And if I need more blue circuits, I just copy this whole thing, make another one. Pretty straightforward, just completely horizontally scaled. And then this beast, which is the actual drop-off of all basic elements needed for crafting. And then an entire bot mall that's set up. And this is all done via blueprints. And so if I want something new, for example, I have some of the mods. I can have the car I still haven't put in here yet just because I didn't really need it. So I can put it right under the tank, and I can say car. And now this is set up to build a car. It's going to build more than I want. So instead of 50 cars, let's go with one car. And then normally I have a multiplier to have a little bit of extra buffer in there for materials ordered. I'll just order one. And then let's take a nice little gamble, see if we can get a better car. I've done this with tanks. I've built a lot of extra tanks to get my nicer one here. I've done that with a few other things, or I've just built a lot just to make sure I would have some nicer end stuff. And this is kind of, everything's built this way. I also even do fluids the same way. So if it's something like, let's do robot, or yeah, electric motors, it's kind of a too wide, and it'll actually bring in the barrels and then take the barrels out. Above is kind of all of the objects we do, so you can see batteries and kind of all that, the regular stuff there. And on the bottom, it's fluids. And so I have plenty of room to expand, and we'll just keep expanding. These 4 rockets I definitely use. They all launch quite a lot when needed. This is just expansion because I ran out of room, so you can see I'm going up this way as well. But plenty of room to expand there. These are low density. This was my old place to make let's get rid of this guy. This is the old place to actually make plates and everything, but this is pretty much done at this point, so we're going to go ahead and get rid of it. Eventually he'll go and work his way out. Yeah, that's set up correctly. What is the other one to show? So yeah, that's kind of the big one. Down to the south, massive area for all my copper, stone, extra batteries, iron and steel, kind of in one place. And then I have just some sciences that I filled out. Steam science, which actually requires steam deliveries. All steam is put on trains or in some other container. Wood science has the wood delivered, so forth. I have my green down here, as well as my red just above it. All the biter bases are not killed, so they all still exist in their super state, just surrounded. Let's see, those are kind of the cooler parts. I do this checkerboard pattern because it's kind of the minimum necessary to kind of fill everything out. And now kind of the cool thing for how steam works, or for how the whole pipeline works with actual nuclear. So we go ahead and refine it, and then we'll take the enriched as well as the depleted uranium. bring it over here. So 235 and 4. Build the actual cells. The cells then get put on trains. They get delivered to our steam generation location, which is right here. I'm currently filling 2 trains all the time. It'll drop off. It'll actually go and set these depending on temperature and fill them. We try to maintain about 700. And so this will always be producing the steam, have a giant buffer. If this ever runs out of power kind of in our system, we'll actually break the connection, so we'll no longer be supplying power to the rest of the base, and we'll run off battery power just to ensure the pumps still keep working. That way we'll never have a hard stop of the generation of steam. And the trains, since they're all powered through nuclear power, they'll keep going even if power runs out on the base. But then we actually have to turn that to electricity, and that happens down here, where we actually get the steam deliveries. And this will go ahead and actually fill these tanks. I have a single backup tank, same thing. When this hits a condition, this will go ahead and start pumping back in. And then it's also, if it runs out of power, it'll go ahead and cut the circuit to the entire base and ensure that it still has the pumps running here so that we never fully run out of power. Yes. And then that same steam generation location is how I run anything else that needs steam, such as the steam science, which gets dropped off here. But the interesting thing that's made with steam is that's what I use at the mining bases as well. So when steam gets down here, when the actual drop off of enriched material comes on the boat, it'll actually also give it the brain fart. I don't know what it is. I'm forgetting the name of things. Sulfuric acid. So it'll load up sulfuric acid, unload the empty barrels, and then unload the uranium ore. But to keep power to the whole thing, we actually send steam via steamship, which is determines how much steam is at the location, and we basically have a steam battery there, and that's used to actually make sure that power stays maintained. There's a bit of solar, but it definitely uses the steam as well. So if we go and look at that, it's way up north up here. And this has filters for a very messy set of materials. So we have the ore, we have the barrels, and we have the sulfur dioxide, or sulfuric acid. And it just unloads and loads, and then there's conditions to kind of make that make sense. I have the whole network set up where it's technically porous, but with lasers. And so I just thought it would just kind of be an interesting look, so that's kind of why it's set up that way. Here's the drop off, and you can see the circuit network set up for actually receiving the steam. And then the steam comes up here, same thing, there's breakers in various circuit conditions to make sure that we're always pumping and we always have enough power. And so this is generating our electricity to backstop any of the batteries as well as the solar. It has enough to actually maintain quite a bit of defense if we ever had to. And same thing here, the biters are nullified with lots and lots of walls. And so yeah, it's kind of a circular system with the actual steam. So we need steam to mine, which we then use to make steam that is used to mine. So that's a pretty kind of cool loop. I did make sure the batteries were in after I had an entire catastrophic collapse, so that made it a little bit more stable. But yeah, let me go ahead and start the science up, and we can see that. So this one should be just that. And now the trains should start coming in. This guy's going to be... We'll give that just a minute. Yep, here comes this steam science. That's going to start unloading. Wood science. Space science. Blue science. So now we're going to stick here at pickup. Yeah, wood science, or no, steam science requires gold, so you have to do the mining to make sure that comes through. And so that required either something similar to Gleba, where you have to do it with the plants, which I'm not a huge fan of that system. So instead, I just waited till I could get deep core mining, and then I went and did that. I do think I'm probably going to go with other planets before I do production and utility, just because why not? And I'm close enough, so I can kind of start doing that at any point. If I look up a bit, you can see I have to get a couple more things so that advanced research, so that I can research in orbit, and then actually get the asteroid collector needs researched, and then it opens up all the different planets, and I can really start kind of exploring and going to other locations, which is gonna open up pretty soon. So yeah, this is the big one, just to automate the space science as well as the STEAM science, so I can have the ordering. So as soon as these fill up, we should see this go ahead and drop. I might send it a bit early, assuming everyone has space science. Not yet. Yeah, it's going to be a little bit of a minute. Let me go back here. So back on the moon, you can see I do want to be here for when this goes. So let me turn this off. Keep that on manual, so that's full. So if I go back to, well, I'll show the space map real quick. Yeah, very complicated. We're just the circle so far. So yeah, back to the moon. You can see there's you need carbon dioxide, or you need what are the outputs again? Yeah, you need carbon dioxide, water, and seeds, and you produce wood and oxygen. So there's this big problem if you get too much oxygen, and then you need to burn it. And so that's one of the ways to get rid of oxygen. But in the end, I end up venting quite a bit if I overfill. But yeah, there's plenty of carbon dioxide, water, oxygen, steam, and so there's just this very complicated suite of just objects. Same thing, there's a wood pulp system, and that's required to actually make the plastics, which you need for red circuits. And yeah, I've kind of got this really complicated where it comes down, and then at a certain point it just kind of loops back up, and that is used to produce low density, as well as the rocket fuel. And somewhere I have, yeah, here I have my blue circuits too. Not super high quantity, because I'm probably going to take this all off-world, but it was just kind of a good system to do for a while. Most everything was imported, but it's a big enough place you can do some pretty high level of production. I think helium might be useful later on, but there's not really a use right now. So I'll probably just let this die off once I get a dedicated platform, which shouldn't take too long to do at novice, because I am buffering certain items quite a bit. So a few hundred here, as well as down here, a few hundred. And so just have a pretty decent production rate, so I can go ahead and produce. If I ever run low, it's all horizontally similar, so I can just kind of produce it at whatever rate. Should be seeing the cars built by now. Yep, one car, it's gone ahead and built, did its system, and it worked. Let's see if this is looking enough. That's probably doing okay. Not as much steam as I'd like, but I don't think I'm going to have quite as much steam as I want. Yeah, it doesn't necessarily load evenly, but I'm kind of okay with that. This I'll definitely raise to faster belts once I get access to them on Volcanus. Yeah, give it a bit more time. Anything else worth showing? You can see I'm slowly kind of expanding over time, and I just kind of keep building this out. Everything's covered in walls with gates to kind of force myself to not get hit by trains. I still have managed to have this be a deathless run. Nothing has killed me yet, but I'm also not really fighting fighters meaningfully. So that's not quite as good as it sounds, but there is a war world, so we'll see what that looks like when I eventually get to it. But I will probably come over prepared, so it might not be too bad. Yeah, let's see. Is this? It is pretty cool to see everything flowing. I do think I'll need more red circuits pretty soon. They're not quite being produced at the speed I'd like, but this is full, so not a problem yet, anyway. You know, I'm going to say it's good enough for now, just so we can get this going. Let's go ahead and drop that off. Soon enough. And side starts a little unevenly, but that's okay. And then there that goes the train with the 5-second delay. And so the idea is I can have a couple of these trains, and they'll kind of go and always be loading and unloading. And maybe even more of these bays if there ends up being too much of a wait time. And there we go, the first science is done. I can now actually go and put satellites on far planets and see what they communicate. Let's go ahead and add that, because I've been wanting that for, let's see, how many hours am I at so far? I'm at 98 hours. For at least 40 hours I've been hoping for that. So that should be somewhere around here. Signal transmitter, signal receiver. That's silly that we need both, but okay. I don't think I want the default to 50 though. We will go with 5. Same thing here. I only want 1 per. And it doesn't need anything crazy. Cool. Say, oh, no. Cancel that. Actually, let's not have you here. We'll kind of keep it in the category over here. So, not what I meant to do. So, I want to produce 5 of them, and I don't want to bring on, I'll bring out a little, not too many extra materials. Same thing, transmitter. So, here. There's the transmitter. This will go down to 5. And only a little bit of extra materials, too. Cool. And that'll also order the materials here based on this multiplier for what the ingredients are. And then this will say how many it wants to actually have in storage. And then it'll turn off the building when that happens. And these will slowly get built over time. And then I'll be able to do the communication between multiple sites. And I even think I should be able to put it up here. Yeah, so I can even do it on the space platforms themselves and then do some sort of logic here with the space platform and have an ordering setup, which I will definitely do with Ligmas. And so then it'll, when it needs new blue circuits and other rocket parts, it'll go ahead and just order those rocket parts. And that's pretty much it. And I've already ran out of extra material, so that's frozen. But that is the gist of things.